Hi, welcome back to a lesson about social studies and history. Today we will be talking about ancient world history and how ancient civilizations came to be. So before we get started, I just kind of wanted to put this thought into your head that will tie into the rest of the lesson today. So imagine if your family had to grow everything you ate. There were no delivery stores, no grocery services, no grocery stores, nothing. So jumping in, a lot of you probably know this already, but this is just a little refresher. So before farming, grocery stores, anything modern, humans hunted and gathered their food, and this forced people to be nomads, which are people with no fixed home that wandered from place to place, and in this case, the people wandered to find their food. So this process lasted for thousands and thousands of years, but it finally slowed down after a few innovations and techniques, which I will be describing today. So these techniques include animal and plant domestication, early farming tools and techniques, irrigation systems, and storage methods. So starting off with animal and plant domestication, I have the definition of domestication here, but that's probably something you already know. So crops that were domesticated were wheat, barley, flax, lentils, etc., and this happened over a period of thousands and hundreds of years. And then animals were domesticated to used for meat, milk, fur, transportation, or household assistance, and this also happened gradually over time. So I have a few examples here of animals that were used. So the camel was used for transportation, cows were used for meat or milk or both, and the cat was used for household assistance with pests or rodents. So, okay, jumping to early farming tools, digging sticks, which the picture on the left is a digging stick, was an early form of a modern-day hoe or rake, and it was basically just a really long stick with a pointy edge that was used to break up dirt or turn over soil. And then on the right, there's a picture of the plow, which is still used today, but this is a very, very early version of one, and this was also used for the same purpose. So an early farming technique that was very helpful was crop rotation, which is just planting different crops in the same soil and rotating them on a schedule. So this is kind of an infographic of crop rotation in modern day in garden beds. So you can kind of see that each of these crops, it's the same three, but they rotate each year. So now, why do you think crop rotation is useful? Is it A, crop rotation helps the soil stay fresh, B, it adds nutrients to the soil to allow plants to grow, or C, it reduces pests? Or is it D, all of the above? So it is D, all of the above. So jumping into irrigation systems, ditches and canals were a very popular form of an irrigation system, which are just man-made pathways for water to flow to a field from a water source, such as a river, pond, or a lake. And this is kind of a modern-day interpretation of them, or pictures of them. And then storage methods. So clay pots were actually used to store leftover food for later use. And then a little more modern, jumping down the line, was granaries, which are storehouses for large excess amounts of crops like wheat, corn, barley, kind of whatever. And think of this as kind of like your food pantry at home, as for reference. So surplus, this is something that is very important, which led to ancient civilizations, and this just means the excess amount that is left over and doesn't need to be used right away, referring to food. So surplus has led to more people settling down. People didn't have to worry about where they would find their next meal because there was food stored, so this led to less famines, less people starving, which also equals new job opportunities because not everybody needed to be a farmer. And then people also had more free time to do other things that would lead to cultural innovations and also trade starts. So this is kind of just a question, and also a question that people during this change asked themselves: if you didn't have to grow food or cook food all day, what job would you have? So an answer that some of these people from ancient civilizations might have would be an artisan, a market worker, just something of that sort. So this leads to ancient civilizations. So the cradle of civilization, or the Fertile Crescent, is an area of land along the Tigris and Euphrates rivers where the first civilizations namely began, such as Mesopotamia. So we are going to watch a short video on Mesopotamia to explain it better.
The story of writing, astronomy, and law. The story of civilization itself begins in one place. Not Egypt, not Greece, not Rome, but Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia is an exceedingly fertile plain situated between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers. For 5 millennia, this small strip of land situated in what is today Iraq, Kuwait, and Syria fostered innovations that would change the world forever. Inhabited for nearly 12,000 years, Mesopotamia's stable climate, rich soil, and steady supply of fresh water made it ideal for agriculture to develop and thrive. About 6,000 years ago, seemingly overnight, some of these agricultural settlements blossomed into some of the world's first cities. In the period between 4000 and 3100 BC, Mesopotamia was dotted with a constellation of competing city-states. At one point, they were unified under the Akkadian Empire and then broke apart, forming the empires of Assyria and Babylon. Despite near constant warfare, innovation and development thrived in ancient Mesopotamia. They built on a monumental scale, from palaces to ziggurats. Mammoth temples served as ritual locations to commune with the gods. They also developed advanced mathematics.
Okay, that is all we need to know for Mesopotamia today, but just a recap on that video. So, ancient civilizations became centers for culture to flourish through markets and temples, and they were also places for innovation to take place as people could have more time to focus on math, astronomy, art, and language and develop these things. So it is now time for a mini quiz. So I'm going to have you guys pause the video and answer these questions, and I will give you the answer after you unpause the video. But it's just 4 quick questions about this lesson. So pause the video and then come back to me when you're ready to unpause. Okay, so hopefully for number 1 you picked B, for number 2 you picked C, for 3 you picked A, and for 4 you picked C. So, for your homework assignment, I want you to think about either of these questions. You can choose 1 or 2, and this is kind of just more food for thought, more of some thinking about ancient civilizations and the connection to your lives, or just kind of digging deeper. So you can choose from: what do you think changed most when humans stopped hunting and started farming, and how might your daily life be different if people never learned to farm or build cities? So that is it for today. Thank you so much for listening, and good luck.